El Paso shooting massacre that killed 20 being investigated as domestic terrorism. Slideshow by Photo Services. Federal officials are investigating the El Paso shooting as an act of domestic terrorism. Federal investigators in El Paso said they are treating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism, and prosecutors are considering charging the accused gunman with federal hate crime charges. We are going to conduct a methodical and careful investigation with a view toward those charges, said John F. Bash, the United States Attorney for the Western District of Texas, who said he had consulted with Attorney General William P. Barr. Greg Allen, the El Paso police chief, said it's beginning to look more solidly like a 2,300-word anti-immigrant manifesto that was authored by the suspected gunman, who the authorities identified as Patrick Cruzias, 21. Jamie Esparza, the El Paso district attorney, said his office had charged the gunman with capital murder and that he would seek the death penalty in any state prosecution. "We are a good and loving community, but we will hold him accountable," Mr. Esparza said. The FBI is actively investigating the shooting as a possible hate crime, an act of domestic terrorism, and has served 3 search warrants in the Dallas area, said Emerson Buey Jr., the special agent in charge in El Paso. The rifle used in the shooting was purchased legally and the gunman was allowed to carry it openly, Chief Allen said. "Of course, a normal individual seeing that type of weapon might be alarmed, but technically it was in the realm of the law," he said. In interviews with the authorities, the suspected gunman basically didn't hold anything back, Chief Allen said. Rod Rosenstein, the former Deputy Attorney General, wrote on Twitter late Saturday that killing random civilians to spread a political message is terrorism. FBI classifies it as domestic terrorism, but white terrorism is more precise, Mr. Rosenstein said on Twitter. Many of the killers, suspected gunman had limited encounters with the police. The man accused of carrying out the El Paso attack had limited encounters with the Allen Police Department, the authorities said Sunday. In a statement released, the first was in 2014, when the suspected gunman was a juvenile and was reported as a runaway. The second contact was in November 2016, according to the police statement. The third was several months ago, on March 3. The suspect called. The call was cleared without incident according to protocol, the police statement read. One deadly mass shooting hot on the heels of another. Less than 24 hours after a gunman opened fire at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, a man using a long gun stormed an entertainment district and at least 9 people and wounded at least another 27, the police said. Reed officers were nearby and responded to the scene within 1 minute of gunshots. It was the latest tragedy in a particularly brutal week for gun violence in the United States. The shooting came about, in all, defined as 3 or more killings in a single episode, in the United States this year. Government. Greg Abbott of El Paso's wounded have major amounts of tissue injury. The Del Sol Medical Center in El Paso said it was treating 11 patients from the shooting episode, ranging in age from 35 to 82. 3 were in critical. Dr. Stephen Flaherty, the center's medical director of trauma, said 7 of the patients had already undergone surgery and that many more operations would probably be necessary in the next few days. "The injuries that we saw here were very significant injuries," Dr. Flaherty said Sunday at a news conference. Major amounts of. The hospital recently held a training exercise in which staff members prepared to treat a large number of patients from a mass killing. "We actually brought doctors, nurses and administrators who were off duty on Saturday raced to the hospital to help treat victims," he said. The hospital also received a large supply of blood from donors after the shooting. Officials urged. David Shim, the hospital's chief executive, said some injured patients were brought in unconscious and that staff members had to scramble to identify them, but by Sunday morning they had all been identified through family members. He said at least one at a children's hospital, just trying to remain calm. Dr. Najila St. Thomas was on duty Saturday morning at El Paso Children's Hospital when details about the shooting were announced on the intercom system. "We heard the first call over the radio," she said, "then you hear the next one. The next one." Ultimately, only a few children injured in the attack were admitted to the hospital. Dr. St. Thomas back at work Sunday morning, she said that the hospital staff was taking time to debrief and to process what had happened. "It was a little unreal," she said. "You know when it's happening, you're just trying to remain calm, just to make sure we're prepared to handle whatever comes in. Once the adrenaline," officials say no immigration arrests will be made at shelters or hospitals. The West Texas Office of Customs and Border Protection said its officers would not be conducting enforcement operations at El Paso hospitals, shelters, or a middle school where a reunification center for families has been set up. "We stand in support of our community," the office wrote on Twitter late on Saturday. Officials said Border Patrol agents were helping the El Paso Police Department with building safety and security, traffic control, and emergency medical care. David Schimpf, the chief executive of the Del Sol Medical Center in El Paso, said at the news conference on Sunday morning that anyone with injuries should seek medical attention, regardless of citizenship status. "Undocumented citizen or not, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we're doing everything we can for them," Mr. Schimpf said. The El Paso shooting is raising tensions in a city already on edge. El Paso residents of this city awoke on Sunday to the aftermath of a massacre in which a gunman opened fire in a crowded Walmart store, killing at least 20 people and injuring 26 others. Officials were investigating whether the suspect in the killings, a white man in his 20s from Allen, Texas, was linked to a racist manifesto railing against immigration and the growing Hispanic population in Texas. The attack is raising tensions in a predominantly Latino city that was already on edge over the federal government's targeting of migrant families. Businesses closed in El Paso on Saturday night. More than 200 people gathered at St. Pius X Church. The shopping center was a regular destination for Mexican visitors. El Paso, the Walmart is less than 10 minutes drive from Bridge of the Americas linking El Paso and its sister city in Mexico, Ciudad Juarez, and is a regular destination for Mexican tourists who come to the city to shop and visit family. The two cities are Rosa Mara Silva, 42, and Yvonne Moreno, also 42, both church employees in Ciudad Juarez, were on their way to shop at the Walmart on Saturday morning when they found their way blocked by police cars and ambulances. "It was about 10. We weren't in there through a miracle of God," Ms. Silva said. Ms. Moreno smiled. Only as dusk fell did the pair venture out to buy some snacks and head back over the bridge. "It's sad that there are people who discriminate so much," said Ms. Silva. "But we aren't going." Karen Pay ± 19, who lives in El Paso and was crossing the bridge to visit her mother in Ciudad Juarez, saw a broader threat to the shooting. "I think it's because shopping excursions into the United States are a routine weekend activity for Mexicans. Back to school shop." At least 6 Mexican citizens were among the injured, the Mexican government reported. President Andres, the Mexican government has refrained from commenting on the gunman's possible targeting of Hispanics. But residents of he had a mission to kill people, but why Hispanics? Said Carmen Dominguez, 59, a hotel room attendant. "That Walmart is, Mexicans are very hard-working people," she continued. "They were shopping for the." Elizabeth Malkin, Caitlin Dickerson, and Katie Benner contributed reporting.
Raindrop, truck top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. I keep fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,